Several weeks ago, I went to the local bike shop to seek help for a flat tire. I have no practical skills at all, so Nate Johnson, who's here, helps me out when I get flat tires because I'm just terrible at changing them. But anyway, I'd had 2 flat tires that past week. I was a little irritated by the fact that I had 2 of them, and I went there to get some help. Maybe they could fix this punctured tube quickly. And I was just expecting to be irritated because I was thinking they were going to say to me, well, we'll get to you in about a week or so, and I was not prepared for that kind of response. Well, the young man who waited on me was phenomenally warm and clearly intent on responding to my perceived important need. He joked with me, started working on my tire, talking with me as he worked. Quickly, he got the job done. And then I handed him my credit card, and he said, forget it. This one's on us. Wow! This one's on us. I was really moved, and not simply because I am a cheapskate, and I love it when I don't have to spend money, although that is probably true. No, it was much more than that. Actually, I was moved by the entire experience that I had with this young man. The whole experience was one of generosity, and generosity has this way, and maybe it has this way for you, but it has this way of buoying me up, making me feel better about people and life and the world. And after Matt said to me, oh, forget it, it's on us, I said to him, I wonder if people in retail realize how much warmth, generosity, and good customer service can do for those of us who are recipients of their service. A good experience, I said to Matt, can affect the rest of my day. After all, earlier in the day, we met up with a crabby customer service provider who didn't seem at all interested in my perceived needs. Earlier in the day, we yelled at the recorded message on the phone saying, I just want to talk to a real person. And yeah. Y'all been there, haven't you? Earlier in the day, I called the doctor's office and sat on the phone for 25 minutes just to set up a regular appointment. Earlier in the day, you see, our anger was fanned, our frustration was heightened, and energy was drained from us. Life was experienced as anything but generous. Lack of generosity takes the generosity out of us. But generosity begets generosity. We have a marvelous folklorish story out of 2 Kings today that points to the significance of generosity. This story is about a man of God named Elisha. Now, 2 Kings has many stories about this hero, and today we hear that Elisha is visited by a man from Baal Shalisha. We aren't given a name for the man, but we know where he's from. And if we look at that name, Baal Shalisha, we know he's from a foreign city. Baal was a foreign god, a Canaanite god. And so it's this visitor who shows up is a foreigner and probably a pagan. And he comes with gifts. Gifts of food. 20 barley loaves and fresh ears of grain. I have found that some of the greatest hospitality and generosity that I have ever experienced have come to me in surprising ways, have come to me from people I wouldn't have expected, people who are often foreigners. When Bev and I were in college, we befriended a Palestinian couple from Saudi Arabia. Oh my gosh, were they hospitable and generous. They could not feed us enough when we were at their homes. And both Paul and I, at their home, when both Paul and I could tell you that some of the greatest hospitality that we have ever experienced in our life occurred when we were in Palestine. The Palestinians knew how to make us feel special and welcome. At a time when foreigners are often viewed with suspicion, we might want to be surprised by what they have to offer to us. Well, it's food that Elisha gets from a foreigner. Perhaps this was some kind of offering given to religious leaders. Who knows for sure? It is said to be a first fruits offering, which means it is the offering that you offer after you have completed the harvest. This offering, Elisha suggests, be shared with others. Give it to the people and let them eat, Elisha says. You have it, you've brought it for me. I want it shared with others. Elisha wants to, as we are saying these days, pay it forward. He experienced generosity, and he himself desires to be generous. Now, the foreigner is not so sure about Elisha's invitation. How can this food feed 100 people? Now, maybe the foreign man is ticked off because he thinks that Elijah alone should get the gift. And I've experienced that. You know, somebody gives you something and you say, I'm going to share it with others. Oh, people get a little offended. They brought it for you. I brought it for Elisha, and now he's sharing it with other people. But I think probably the more likely, the likely case is that, is that me? I'll go to the, you got it there, mister? All right, thank you. So Elisha's not so sure about this foreign man's invitation, and I think it's because he's overwhelmed by the task. There are 100 people out there. How in the heck are we going to feed them with just this a little amount of food? Because you know what? There just isn't enough to go around. There isn't enough to go around. That's frequently the cry of human beings. Oh, there's not going to be enough food at the potluck. That's why I got to get in line first, because there won't be enough. And those prized Brussels sprouts that I have been looking forward to, I am not going to be able to get, so I need to get in the line first. Not enough to go around is the cry. This is the sentiment, by the way, that creates sibling rivalry. Parents got to get this. Kids fight with each other because they think there's not enough to go around, not enough love to go around. This is the sentiment that causes us to be suspicious of foreigners. This is the sentiment that makes us crabby when we think that other people get things that we don't get. Not enough to go around. And yet, Elisha repeats the command that he had at the beginning of the text: give it to the people and let them eat. There is enough to go around. The world is not ruled by scarcity. The world is ruled by abundance. And if you don't believe that, pay attention to Jesus. He's got 5,000 to feed, not 100 like Elisha. And he has less to work with. He has only 5 barley loaves, not 20. And he has a couple of fish, of course. And miraculously, these gifts are enough. In fact, they are so much enough that there are leftovers. And Jesus tells his disciples to gather up the fragments, the leftovers, so that nothing can be lost. You see, there are a whole lot more people who need to be fed. Jesus God has his eyes on the whole of creation, on everybody. After all, and maybe you know this text, God so loved the world, the cosmos, everything and everybody, that he gave his only Son, so that the world might know that there is more than enough to go around. God is not stingy. What rules the world is not stinginess, but abundant grace and love. The psalm appointed for today, Psalm 145, speaks of his grace and love in words that can be described as a creedal statement for Israel. The Lord is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love. This is the bottom line truth of Israel's faith. God is gracious. God is not a crabby, stingy autocrat who only has enough love for a limited number of people. God is a gracious God whose love is extended to all. You and I live in light of a generosity and an abundance for everything and everybody. Now, when I hear that, when I trust that, I can't help but be generous myself. For you see, generosity begets generosity. As generosity flows to me, I want to be like Elisha and share with others. Put that food in front of the people. There will be enough to go around. In fact, there will be leftovers according to the word of the Lord. Now, you and I here at First Lutheran, and I'm going to be bold and maybe arrogant enough to say this, are truly and abundantly blessed community. This is a community of such vitality and energy. And I have been asked on many occasions what I think makes that possible. And I could mention many things. But I am convinced that generosity of spirit, compassion, and money is a primary key to vital congregational life. Now, I realize there are no guarantees, especially these days. These are tough days to do church. But a surefire way to kill a church is to practice stinginess. Stinginess of mind, stinginess of heart, stinginess of wallet. Vital churches often have people with open minds and open hearts. These people are not keeping track or keeping score. They are open to the brokenness of human beings. They don't need to stand in judgment of people who are different than they are, or perhaps are not as talented as they are. They root people on. They rejoice with people who get good stuff, even if they don't. Vital churches are filled with people who realize that the church exists not for simply its own kind and for its own sake. Yes, we want to take care of our own, but if we are only taking care of our own, we will collapse in on ourselves. Vital churches open their doors and share their buildings. Vital churches share their money, and not just with themselves. For you see, we know a bigger world out there. We also know the truth of the generosity of God, which is focused on all of creation and the whole world. Vital churches ask about how we can help not only ourselves, but how we can help the world. Vital churches take the gifts of 20 barley loaves and fresh ears of grain and place them before the people, trusting that there will be more than enough, according to the word of the Lord. Experiencing the generosity of the man of God at the bike store changed my day last month. I came into that feeling a little crabby, expecting to be crabbier when I left. And I think I can say that interaction of generosity that came not from me changed the way I interacted with people for the rest of the day. What if you knew and trusted that at the center of life itself is an abundant generosity. If you did, not just one day is going to be changed. All of life is going to be changed. Generosity has this way of transforming everything. Generosity begets generosity, which begets more generosity, which begets even more generosity. And when generosity flows, generosity rules. And when generosity rules, life isn't about crabbiness and resentment and stinginess. How little can I tip and get away with it? How unstained can we keep the carpet? How do I make sure that that other person, especially that foreigner, doesn't get something that I deserve? No, when generosity rules, the calculators are thrown away. Crabbiness and resentment find themselves being replaced by joy and freedom. And I got to tell you, it's a life of joy that I want to live. Amen.